Okay. Like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, regular meeting of Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. The first thing on the agenda is public hearing. Proposed Rocky Hill zoning regulation amendments, Attorney Peter Alter for Sam Center LLC, adding A, Section 4B 210 to commercial type uses, self-contained, climate-controlled self-storage facility as a use by special permit, site plan approval, and regional commercial zone. B, to Section 4D4, add Note 6 in RC zone tab. See Section 6P1 as to building height permitted. C, Section 6P, self-contained, climate-controlled self-storage facility, when and where permitted by these regulations, shall conform to the following standards in addition to other applicable standards of these regulations, detail provided in proposed Section 6P1 through and including 6P10, including but not limited to height, lot size, project size, hours of operation, parking, separation, and distances. Separation distances. And just for some housekeeping, everyone sitting here is hearing this hearing. Will be voting on this one. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Peter Alter. I'm a lawyer. I practice law in Glastonbury at the firm of Alter, Pearson, and Hope. Also here tonight in support of the application are Ron and Max Lyman and Kevin Johnson. You may hear from some or all of them during the course of the public hearing. As indicated in the legal notice and also in the call for the public hearing, we are seeking a text change amendment to permit self-contained, climate-controlled self-storage facility in the regional commercial zone by way of your special permit and site plan approval process if the text amendment were to be adopted. At the outset, I do want to make a technical correction. In my initial submission of materials, including the proposed text amendment, I mistakenly labeled the proposed new text as being Section 4B29. Ms. Ritchie pointed out that I should have labeled it as Section 4B210 instead. As soon as I was aware of that mistake that I made, I corrected it, submitted a corrected text amendment with the proper identification for the new proposed section. There is no change in the text of the proposed amendment, only a change to the section number, and the legal notice that was published references the correct section number, so that thanks to Kim, we were able to correct that before the legal notice was published. I noticed in the documents that were submitted or part of the agenda package, the old numerical amendment was attached, so just in the interest of clarity, this is the one that was submitted early the next week after I was made aware by Kim of the misnumbering of this section. As outlined in our application materials, the current Rocky Hill zoning regulation has no provision for a self-storage facility use in any zone, but the proliferation of multifamily apartment complexes in Rocky Hill and surrounding communities has caused a significant increase in the need and demand for high-quality, climate-controlled self-storage facilities that would be conveniently located within the community to allow apartment residents to manage their personal property when adequate self-storage facilities are not incorporated into multifamily developments. Carefully regulated facilities can be developed in areas proximate to state highways and ready accessibility. And the use is a low traffic volume producer, and through control of operational hours, the facility can be an excellent commercial use, transitioning from residential to more active commercial uses. Commissioners may recall that we appeared before you on an informal basis on April 16th, 2025, to present the concept of this text amendment that would allow for a specialized self-storage facility in the RC zone, and to receive feedback from the commission and also get a better understanding of concerns that the commission might have. That was a non-binding informal opportunity for the commission and any potential applicant to review a proposal and to allow the potential applicant to receive informal guidance and suggestions, to respond to initial questions and gain an understanding of any concerns the commission may have. As a result of that informal meeting on April 16th, there were in fact several changes made to the text draft that we presented to you in April. And I just want to highlight those so that the commission understands that, first of all, we heard you, and second of all, the suggestions and questions that were raised gave us an opportunity to make the proposed amendment more consistent with your expectations. First of all, a commissioner asked whether or not there would be rooftop equipment, and if so, would it be visible away from the site? So I've added a provision in what is proposed to be 6P1, stating that all rooftop equipment shall be screened from visibility if such equipment rises to a height greater than the parapet of the roof, so that the applicant would have the obligation to provide screening and protect against visibility of HVAC units and the like. So that was a provision that we added as a result of comments from commissioners. In addition, a commissioner asked or suggested that it would be important to prevent users or tenants of units in the self-storage facility from conducting any commercial activities directly from the unit. That you didn't want, nor do we want, someone conducting their business out of a unit. It's for storage, not active business activities. So I added section 6.B.8, which states that storage of personal property, commercial or residential, shall be the only permitted use of the self-storage facility. No commercial activities shall be permitted to be conducted from the site. It shall be the responsibility of the operator of the facility to enforce this use restriction with respect to its customers, and any rental contract utilized at the facility shall state this use restriction. A copy of the standard contract containing the use restriction shall be provided to the Planning and Development Office for its records. I thought it was important that town staff have a single person to deal with if this ever became an issue. And it would be the operator of the facility that's responsible for enforcement, to avoid the issue of town staff having to go find a tenant and somehow enforce this prohibition. It would be, the onus would be on the operator to manage and make sure that its tenants are not in violation of that provision. It would be included in their standard contract so that there would be no opportunity for a tenant to claim that they did not understand that restriction. And then finally, Commissioner asked how Section 7D.3.3, which is the buffer requirement, could be accommodated for a development like this. And that presented the greatest challenge to us. We're aware of at least one parcel that this development would be accepting of, but it's encumbered by substantial high-tension lines and MDC easements that prohibit the planting of any vegetation within the easement, and in fact, Eversource feels free to come and cut down anything that anybody has planted within the easement. They've done that not just in Rocky Hill, but through many communities. And so to accommodate that situation, but to offer protection to the transition from a residential to a commercial use, I've proposed 6P9, which states that in the event that section 7D33 buffer requirements cannot be satisfied on the subject property due to the existence of permanent third-party easements, such as utility easements that contain restrictions preventing permanent buffer plantings within the permanent utility easement, the applicant shall, not may, shall make a written offer to the owners of abutting residentially zoned property to provide the abutting owner with a choice of a planted evergreen screen or an opaque fence 6 feet in height to be installed on the abutting property at the applicant's sole cost and expense. So we want to give a residential user who happens to abut a property like this the opportunity to have screening done at no cost to the residential owner. The applicant would be obliged to make that offer to a residential owner. We can't make the residential owner accept that. I would think most would, but everybody has their own ideas about things like that. So I added, if the adjoining property owner shall decline the applicant's offer, then the commission shall waive said buffer requirement if no planting is permitted within the third-party easement area. The applicant shall provide a landscape plan for its site in addition to addressing this buffer requirement. No matter what proposal comes forward, you'll get a full landscape plan within the site. And it can make some accommodations for screening, even though it can't plant within a utility easement. But it will not be the full 50-foot wide buffer that the regulation 7D33 requires. So we needed to create an opportunity for some flexibility within the commission and within the applicant to do the best they can in terms of buffering. The good news, I think, is that this particular use is so insignificant in terms of the traffic and activity it generates on a day-to-day basis. And since there is already a provision in the regulation that limits the hours to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., the intrusion into the residential properties by an activity or the activity that a self-storage facility generates is pretty minimal. And by the offer of a fence or a planting screen on residential properties, we think we can provide suitable buffering for residential neighbors that may abut. Those are the changes that we made to our proposal based on comments from the commission, which frankly are very, very helpful in terms of our being able to present a better amendment than we started with on April 16th. The other materials that we submitted, I submitted an analysis of the manner in which this amendment is consistent with both the 2015 Plan of Conservation Development, which is in force at the moment, and also the plan that's dated 2025 that you'll consider later on in the agenda tonight, and found that in several instances, this proposal is completely consistent with the goals and manner of development that is spelled out by the Plan of Conservation Development, both in 2015 and 2025, and I list some of those and then provided copies of those parts of the Plan of Conservation and Development so that you could refer to them I'm happy to go into detail with that, but you're likely more familiar with the POCD than I am, so I would not try to educate you on your own plan. Suffice it to say that I believe that this proposal is consistent with the goals that you set out in your plan of conservation and development. We did make the owner of the Howard Johnson's at 1760 Celestine Highway aware of this proposal, and as part of our materials, we've given you a letter from Peter Patel indicating that he supports this text amendment as it would generate substantially less traffic and noise than other commercial uses, and he thinks that it's an appropriate use for a parcel such as the one that is immediately adjacent to his hotel operation. I think that we've provided you with a text amendment that is both sensitive to residential neighbors and also consistent with your plan of conservation and development, and it gives us an opportunity to offer the kind of development that is less intense and more economically feasible than a development of a restaurant and hotel or other commercial uses that might be more active and more disruptive than a self-storage use. I'm happy to answer any questions. Happy to address any issues that I raised that you have questions about. Messrs. Lyman and Mr. Johnson are also here and can speak to any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we get started, I just wanted to clarify that this is a text change. This isn't a formal application for the actual development. So any details about the development are moot at this point until we get the actual application. Just
And
wanted
text
to-
amendment, just a text amendment.
I
Right.
fully agree with that. We're only using this parcel as an example of how it could be developed, not that this is a development. If you saw fit to adopt this text amendment, we would go through the entire special permit and site plan approval process where you would see architecture, a palette of colors on the building, landscaping, lighting, screening, site drainage, parking, all of that would be presented in great detail. We obviously are not trying to do that tonight.
Understood.
Just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah.
I don't-
100%.
Commissioner Glico, you have any questions?
I'm good.
Commissioner Hussey?
Attorney Alter, I know you mentioned, where was it at? 6P1. I know you talked about the screening for the rooftop units.
Yes, sir.
The only thing I was thinking about is that you definitely spell out the fact of it being a parapet on the roof, and I'm just concerned with if a roof, let's say, has a parapet on the front, but not sides or the rear, maybe it would be more beneficial to just kind of say screening, period, without visible screening from all directions. If you have a parapet on the front facade of a building and not the sides, and it's a, let's say, a corner lot, and it might be visible on other sides, I think the intent is there. I just don't know if there would be other feedback to try to make sure that it's in line with what we'd want with sufficient screening. I don't know if you even know what I'm trying to decipher at there.
Certainly, we have buildings.
I think we're on
where
the same
there's-
page,
there-
you know?
I think so too, but we certainly have buildings that have don't have a parapet
Correct.
360 degrees
Correct.
of the building.
Yep.
And I think that the intention, and we could certainly clarify it, the intention is that if it rises above any parapet, even, or no parapet.
Or no parapet.
Then it's- then it-
That would
then-
be the concern. I mean,
then
you
it
kind of
must be
spell out,
screened.
yeah, you kind of are spelling out the fact of a parapet as long as it's, and obviously, a site plan comes in, that's going to be one of the things we talk about regardless. But if there was some clarity, then it just kind of negates that discussion.
You could almost, to make it simpler, you could consider simply saying all rooftop equipment shall be screened from visibility, period.
Perfect.
Love it.
Love it. Take parapet right out. Thank you. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Lecco.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions about the, some of the dimensional proposals here. Just trying to visualize this, and I know you have your project, potential project in the future here, but 45 feet, is that essentially 3 stories for?
Yes.
Okay. And the total floor area no greater than 126,000 square feet. Sounds like a contrived number, 126.
3 times 42.
It's 3 times 42. Yeah, I did the calculation myself.
And it's contrived.
Yeah. I would just suggest making that less contrived, you know? Somebody comes in and wants 130,000 square feet, they need a variance, you know, I mean, we're not gonna,
Well, I have a provision in here that says you can't get a variance, but the last
Oh.
provision in P.10 is no variance from any of the special requirements under the section shall be permitted.
Tricky.
Full circle.
okay. I see you have here about, self-storage facility shall not be, the property shall not be less than 4 acres. So did you kind of figure that based on the 1 acre, 42,000 square feet? A quarter of the site is the building, and then 3/4 of the site would be parking or open space?
Yes, and
Yeah.
the parking requirement is obviously much less than you would ever call out for a 42,000 square foot floor plate office building.
Yeah.
We're saying that, in terms of parking, that, we don't need anywhere near that kind of parking. If there are 2 or 3 people at a self-storage facility at the same time, it's a lot. And usually there's either 1 or 2 employees. So we don't want to overpark anything. What we anticipate is that we would have a fire lane circumnavigate the building. And we would have a small parking area adjacent to the entrance to the building. And that would be all of the impervious surface that would be needed. The rest would be green space, would give us an opportunity for landscaping and planting and to set the building off more as a commercial building than kind of typical self-storage facility that you're used to seeing.
Okay. One other question, 6P4, self-storage facility shall be a single structure with floor plates not to exceed 42,000 square feet, which matches, you know, your other dimensional requirements. I guess my question is, like, why does it have to be a single structure? I mean, you could have, I've seen them where they have, you know, storage facility on one side, then the parking and the driveway in the middle, and storage facility on the other side. That's two buildings. I don't see why it has to be 2 buildings. The site may dictate, I mean, I don't see why it has to be 1 building. I can see where a site might be more developable and better for the community if it's 2 buildings. So I think that's a restriction that we might want to,
Okay.
Remove.
I certainly understand your point. Our goal was to present a building that doesn't look like a typical self-storage
yeah.
building, that we want it to look more like a commercial structure. I'm not going to say it's going to look like an office building because it won't. It won't have all those windows and
Yeah.
fenestration, but it's going to be more of a statement building than if you have
Yeah.
3 lower buildings. That was our intention because of the kinds of locations that you find in the regional commercial zone really lend themselves to that kind of development.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you felt that was appropriate, I certainly don't have a.
Yeah,
don't
I
have
mean,
an
it wouldn't,
objection to
it wouldn't hurt your, what you're trying to do
It would
here.
not.
And it might help somebody else, and I don't see any problem with allowing more than one structure as long as it isn't more than 4 acres and doesn't have a total square footage of the magic number of 126,000 square feet. That's all I have.
Commissioner Morhurst.
I actually have, I have nothing.
Get your button.
There we go. Okay, sorry. I have nothing other than, no, I just have nothing. Thank you.
Commissioner Robbins.
I think I answered my own question. This text amendment is specific just to regional commercial, right?
correct.
Because we have self-storage over in the commercial zone in town. And if we applied some of these to that area, it could be limiting to what they've already done over there, or if something else goes on. But if it's specific to regional commercial,
It is.
I don't, all my questions just went poof. So, I'm good.
Thank you. One question I have is, I don't know if it's for staff or for you. 6P2, it says, shall be not less than 4 acres sites. Do we know how many sites are more than 4 acre in the regional commercial zoning district? Are there a lot?
No, there are not a lot, but as it stands, without someone acquiring pieces and consolidating them, which is always an option if it's financially feasible. We know that there's at least one more that's larger than 4 acres, and would accommodate a building like this.
So looking at the RC, there's properties that possibly could be converted to self-storage. So do we need to consider that in this language, or is this, there's no grandfathering going on? If they want to be a storage facility, they are going to have to follow this
In the RC zone,
in the RC zone.
correct.
For example, they're a restaurant now, and they want to convert to a storage facility. They'd have to come in and honor all this stuff.
Correct.
And before acre.
Yeah, and, yeah, well, I'm just saying, people, because we went through this in another zone, and there was only like 2 properties that it affected, so I just wanted to make sure that what's going on there.
Yes.
In
Now,
six-
this doesn't apply to that which is on Route 3. That's a
Yeah.
totally different
Yep,
zone.
I understood. 6P9, I understand what you're trying to do when it comes to, you want to pay for screening, evergreen screening, fencing, whatever it is. If you come for a site plan, how do you know what the occupants or the property owners want before you come in? Because the commission really doesn't have any power after that.
We would.
It's a building permit after that.
We would, as part of the presentation of an application, we would have to demonstrate that we comply with 6P9. So we would make a proposal to adjacent residential properties saying, we're bringing this application forward. This regulation says that we should make this offer to you. Here's the idea of what a fence might look like, and here's the idea of what an evergreen planting might look like.
So you're saying that this part of a site plan application, the deal is cut pre-application, not
Correct.
post-application?
That's correct. Because we have to, in order to secure approval, we would have to show that we've complied with the regulation. Or the resident has said, I'm not interested in any of that, and then we would show you a landscape plan that doesn't provide that. But it would be up to the resident to decline.
So it would be up to the commission to ask an applicant if they asked every abutter of the deal, if they got the deal or not?
Correct.
And then it'll be up to us to say if we waive or whatever.
if the
The last,
residential,
basically the last two sentences.
if the residential abutter said, yes, I'll take trees, then those would show on the site plan that we present. If the residential abutter said, no, I want a fence, we would have a detail of the fence on the plan, like you see
Yeah.
in your
No, I
application.
understand it, I just want
If
to
they
make
say-
sure this commission understands that we have to make sure this is all up front, and it's not post-application,
Right.
it's pre-application. And do we?
Absolutely.
Do we have that in any of our regulations, that we have to basically have
may wanna
pre-applicable things
You may
for?
want to clarify that this is to be on the plan at that time of application.
Okay, that would,
Just
actually would clarify everything.
I have a sentence saying, and must be, appear on the
Yeah.
plan. Just a question. I'm a little fuzzy about, a special permit does not go to a public hearing.
Special permit does.
It does, okay, so that could be covered in a.
Yeah, but
The
I want to
public
make sure
hearing.
that the commission doesn't lose we should be able to see this on a plan, to Kim's point,
Right, but the public would
or
be
some type
here,
of documentation.
but the public would be here to actually say, hey, these guys didn't come to me.
Right,
That
So
would be on us.
that would
That's our
be,
burden.
that's
Yeah.
the good thing about a public hearing, is that we can get everything out of the way in advance.
do we want to add words into this statement saying must be on a site plan? Or must be part of a site plan?
Well, this really is only gonna be if there's a concern like an easement that they can't encroach on.
Yeah.
No, this thing is saying they have to ask every applicant what they want.
Only.
We'll
if
get
they
to that
can't
during the meeting.
Meet the
That's,
requirements. If they can't meet the requirements due to an easement, like an Eversource easement, that doesn't allow buffering.
Okay, so I'm overreading it then.
I,
What you guys are
If I,
saying, I'm
if I,
overreading it.
I think
if I
so.
might, what I would expect as an applicant is I would provide you with a copy of the Eversource easement that says we can't plant any trees.
which would show on the
I
site
would
plan.
provide you with the written
permission.
invitation to every residential abutter to take part in a screening effort on their own property. And that resident's response.
And you would
Yes.
present all that material at the public
That
hearing.
would all be part of the
Yeah.
application materials.
Understood, I read more into it then.
Yeah, as part of the public record, I don't think it really needs to be on the plan.
Yeah, you did. No, it's
Yeah.
okay.
I have one more question.
Paralysis by analysis.
I got one more question on 6P6. No exterior storage of vehicles, boats, or recreational vehicles shall be permitted anywhere on the storage facility property. That's good, but and those are the most common things that could be problematic, but why not extend it to say,
Anything.
or anything else that's not necessary for the operation of the building,
I have no objection.
in case somebody stores pallets out there or something, you know?
Just say no outside storage.
Certainly just say no exterior storage
Right.
shall be permitted anywhere on the storage facility property. I've seen a lot of storage, self-storage places where
Chunk
all of a sudden there's 10 RVs and 3 boats under plastic, and
Yeah.
Shipping
that's what I
containers.
had in mind, but I think your point is well taken, that it probably ought to prohibit any exterior storage,
So,
period.
no exterior storage.
Period.
Anywhere on the storage facility property. Okay.
So if you just delete of vehicles, boats, or recreational vehicles, no exterior storage shall be permitted anywhere on the storage facility property, would address that. It includes those, but it doesn't exclude anything else.
Anything else from the commission?
Motion,
Anything else from the applicant?
No, sir.
Can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
motion to close public hearing, please.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's tricky when we,
Public meeting B, 2020 Fair Rock Hill Plan of Conservation and Development as proposed by the Rock Hill Planning and Zoning Commission to be effective 6/24/2025.
I'll try to be quick, but I'll hit the highlights. Under Section 823 of the state statutes, the municipalities in Connecticut are required to update their plan of conservation and development every 10 years. We've undergone a rather rigorous process to get to where we are due to budgetary circumstance. I want to thank the 500-plus survey respondents that submitted comments on a townwide survey, any public participation we had, the boards and commissions, meetings of which I did attend, got some feedback from them. The Rocky Hill Historical Society providing some information on a historical section in our plan, town staff, town council, town manager, particularly Community Development Services, the IT department, John Murphy and his collating of some of the survey responses, Planning and Zoning Commission, in particular Victor Zarelli for his techno expertise. I want to thank you very much for all the hard work you've put in. In our 2025 Plan of Conservation and Development, there's a series of policies and action steps to guide Rocky Hill over the next 10 years, many of which are carryover from 2015. Including this year, we're using appendices. We have our Rocky Hill Affordable Housing Plan, which are required to be updated every 5 years. That is included. The plan is from 2022 to 2027, so that will be a POCD amendment when we redo that plan. The Rocky Hill Resiliency's findings, we had a resiliency workshop put on by the Connecticut Nature Conservancy, and resiliency planning is certainly necessary, and that will be a document that we will work on in the future. The Rocky Hill Greenway Plan is included, and the Rocky Hill Complete Streets Policy is included. One of the action steps is to complete a complete streets plan. The strategies include conservation, development, and infrastructure strategies, some of which I will highlight. Obviously, protection of natural resources, there was a big respondent cohort in our survey. Promote low-impact development regulations. One of the more interesting things that was raised to the Open Space and Conservation Commission was looking at the role of the Open Space and Conservation Commission and the fact that over the course of time, they have kind of pigeonholed themselves into a niche of a wetlands agency and not really dealt with open space or conservation. And that's something that we want to look at. Maybe parsing out the functions or having them have different duties. Open space planning. What about connectivity of open space? PA 490 open space, how does that fit into the picture? Riverfront property. Support and preserve farming. Considering a VOAG component to the Rocky Hill education school system, whether it be a few classes or an entire VOAG program, as some communities have. Protection of historic resources, adaptive reuse. We talked about that along Glastonbury Avenue. Streetscapes, assessing design review processes. We have on the books a town ordinance for a design review board that has not been appointed. That's something that I know the commission has talked about in the past. I know we have some regulations in our current zoning regulations about design in the town center zone. How do we want that to take place? Promote sustainability and resiliency. For example, a townwide drainage study hasn't been done since the 1960s. A lot has happened in town since then. Prepare a resiliency plan, as I previously stated. Some of the development strategies, the town center expansion and enhancement, talking about mixed-use pedestrian and bike-friendly areas, working with the Department of Transportation and the fairly new Municipal Development Authority at the state. We've already met with them, at least on a preliminary basis. Create regulations for middle housing. Create more affordable housing. And when I say affordable housing, I am talking about defined by statutes, 80% of area median income. However, the need is really for 60% of area median income and less. And there's some information that I'll get to you probably at a future meeting about that. Encourage infill business development, specialty businesses. We heard a lot about that on the surveys. Enhance the riverfront, promote public spaces, creation of an arts council. Some of the infrastructure activities, we're talking about comprehensive evaluation of community needs, community facilities and community needs. Develop a complete streets plan for all. We're working on a in-course staff team to work with the Complete Streets program, and then we'll call other people in as needed. An analysis of our current roadway network, traffic calming, connections, access management regulations. We have something in our current regulations about encouraging shared access points, but actually maybe do some more detailed regulations on that. The trail system was a big, there were a lot of people on the survey that was talking about the trail system and greenways. Other modes of transportation, whether they be pedestrian, bike, minibus, public transportation, or some form thereof. Encourage underground utilities, which we do in new developments, when new developments come in. Update the storm drainage master plan, once again. Implementation of the plan it's basically, we're all responsible. We're all responsible for the review. We have a plan implementation committee, as we have had in the past. What would happen, once this is adopted, the Planning and Zoning Commission will sit down and decide how that plan implementation committee will be set up. In the past, there have been a few different ways that it was done. More recently, there was the chairman and one other member of the commission that sat with some staff members and other department heads. And after quite some time, some of the other department heads dropped off, and there was a core team of people that sat at the table. I know Victor was one of those individuals. So the commission might want to, we should be talking about that next. After that, the updating of the zoning regulations will need to be done to reflect our current POCD. And that's a major task that this commission will have to undertake. So, one of the things I know in discussing the update, I mentioned that the commission should be reviewing the document maybe quarterly, going through and seeing what the next priorities are. This had been given to the town council. It was given to CROG. I went to several different board meetings to solicit feedback, some of which you have heard this evening. Others, I know when I went to the Open Space and Conservation Commission, they talked about, the Open Space and Conservation Commission duties and the parsing out of the various functions thereof. They also talked about, wouldn't it be nice if the town had a grants administrator? So they kind of put that in there as well. The Economic Development Commission, they talked about specialty businesses, trying to court specialty businesses, and they also talked about an arts council and trying to get more public spaces for events, more public events that you can walk to, little plazas or parks where you can walk to. So that's the feedback I've gotten from them. We did have one email I received back in May. It was a member of the Sustainability Task Force, Jack Alaward, I believe is the last name. I reviewed the Plan of Conservation and Development and wanted to say it was extremely well done and enjoyed the sustainability and resiliency part. The affordable housing section was very interesting, and that was the feedback I got. That was it.
Is the goal to keep it electronic?
It would be electronic, yes.
And can we still feature it on the front page of the website, like where it
Yes.
is now? Or
Yes.
we're just going to change it from draft to, and it's just going to sit there?
Yep. I have some like word changing tweaks that I came up with that I have.
Will this go to a printer and have it printed, or no, you'll just have some copies of someone else's copy?
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
We'll
I
see
don't
if
know
we
what the
can-
money means, what money is, or if there is any
Yeah.
money to have
Yeah.
it printed.
Yeah, because that would be nice if we could do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any questions or anybody in the audience wanting to, and I know it was a quick overview of some highlights. It was very brief, but
Anyone from the public who would like to talk about this public hearing on the POCD?
My name is Tom Puglisi. I live at 135 Parsons Street. I am currently a member on the Affordable Housing Board, and I'm here because the
Can you move the mic closer to your mouth? Yeah, just move, yeah, there you go.
Okay. The POCD, the full document, I haven't read. I'm about 65% through it, and I want you to know that I think this is a wonderful document. I really appreciate the work that not only you, but the town staff has put into it. And as far as the affordable housing section of it, on the Affordable Housing Board, we really are fighting to find a way in order to achieve our designated percentage of affordable housing in Rocky Hill. And we're trying to do it in such a way that we can accommodate our community as it is today. For example, if somebody has a child that can't really live on their own as they get older, having a small house that they can put into their own yard with separate utilities could be a wonderful benefit for that family. Or seniors who want to have a small place along with one of their kids. That would work too. And I think your plan is going a long way toward accomplishing what our community needs. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this matter? Hearing none. Any commission members who would like to, questions, comments? Commissioner Glico?
Good.
Commissioner Hussey?
No comment.
Commissioner Lecco?
No comment.
Commissioner Moorhurst?
The only comment I want to make is that we should all thank Victor Zarelli for doing 99% of the work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Robbins?
Same comment as Commissioner Morton.
I have no comment then.
Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for June 18th. First thing on the regular agenda is public comment. Anybody from the public would like to speak on anything outside of this agenda? Seeing none, motion to adopt the consent agenda. Can I get a motion, sorry?
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Agenda item A, just so we're clarifying on agenda item A, because Commissioner Robbins, we're going to have you sit this one out since you came a little later, and
We already started.
and then the next one, you'll be on the next one, all right?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so,
Although as a, but isn't there supposed to be a balance or no?
I just wanted to make sure that we started the meeting and then you came in.
Oh, there's, okay, all right.
I'm okay to switch it if you guys want to switch it, but I
it
I
doesn't
just want to be fair.
Yeah, I just, as long as we're complying with our own requirements, it doesn't matter to me.
Are we okay? Commissioner, Madam Ritchie? Yeah, go for it.
Do you want to actually read the agenda item and then I'll make a motion?
I'll read it.
Do we need to propose this?
Agenda item A, proposed Rocky Hill zoning regulation amendments. Attorney Peter Alter for Sam Center LLC adds Section A, Section 4B 210 to commercial type uses, self-contained climate-controlled self-storage facility as a use by special permit site plan approval in the regional commercial zoning, in the regional commercial zone. B, to Section 4D4, add Note 6 in RC Zone tab. See Section 6P1 as to building height permitted. C, Section 6P, self-contained, climate-controlled self-storage facility, when and where permitted by these regulations shall conform to the following standards in addition to other applicable standards of these regulations detailed provided in proposed sections 6P1 through 6P10, including but not limited to height, lot size, project size, hours of operation, parking, separation distances. Can I get a motion, please?
Okay, motion to approve the Rocky Hill zoning regulation amendments as presented by the applicant with the following, looks like, with the following changes. 6P1, delete, on the last sentence, delete everything after all rooftop equipment shall be screened from visibility, and then take the second half of that sentence out. The other change would be 6P6. No exterior storage shall be permitted anywhere on the storage facility or property, taking out the wording of vehicles, boats, or recreational vehicles.
Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a discussion.
I would like to make sure you do put an amendment date that it takes effect. Make sure you put that in the,
What is the turnaround time that we need? Do we need a specific turnaround time? 2 weeks, 1 month? Do we need?
typically it's when the notice of action is published, which will be next week, next Wednesday.
So I'll add that to the motion
Say,
to take place when the notice of action comes out, which is expected to be next week.
Is that fine?
next Wednesday.
Does the seconder approve that?
Yes.
Any discussion now? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Agenda item B, 2025 Rocky Hill Plan of Conservation Development as proposed by the Rocky Hill Planning and Zoning Commission to be effective 6/24/25. Sitting all regular members and Commissioner Hussey on this one.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 Rocky Hill Plan of Conservation and Development as proposed by the Rocky Hill Planning and Zoning Commission to be effective 6/24/25.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Way to go, Victor.
Discussion of Plan Implementation Committee membership.
Do you wish to talk about that now, or do you wish to wait?
Nah,
Okay,
yeah,
Okay.
we'll go forward.
okay,
Thank you, sir, for coming.
that's fine.
Any other business? CROG Regional Planning Commission.
Okay, there was a meeting on June 5th, which was a week ago, Thursday, and I've got some notes here, simple notes. Damn. I lost them. I'm sorry. Pardon me, folks. Okay. I sent this to Kim. Could you send this around to everyone?
I did not.
Yeah,
There were very
okay.
few people in the office today, so.
Okay, I sent this on, I believe, Monday. The meeting was essentially, it was about 2 hours and 10 minutes. 90 minutes of that was taken up by 2 presentations by outside people. They were non-CROG members, and they were on parking and parking regulations primarily geared towards cities like Hartford, not small communities. Very little of it really applies to a community like Rocky Hill, but the presentations are online, and we can get the links for everybody. Then those are the 2 presentations. Then CROG presented a summary of the new HB 5002 legislation that was passed, and it hasn't been signed yet by Governor Lamont, at least as of yesterday afternoon. I think I would suggest that we get an interpretation of that from the town attorney if we could, because there's a lot of legalese stuff that, like 20,000 feet above our heads.
The governor, I know, is looking to seek revisions on the language and have a special session. And I know the town council had a meeting to discuss possibly sending a letter to the governor to veto.
Oh,
That was on a special town council agenda. So while I put something in the packet, it's still up in the air. So if it gets approved, there'll be a lot of zoning regulation revisions.
okay, so then there'll be
It's-
another discussion of this. The thing that I picked up out of the discussion was that the 830G appeal standards are proposed to be changed. They didn't say specifically, and I haven't read the legislation, it's about that thick. So I guess we'll hear about what that's all about someday. Then there was a brief report on referrals from member towns. The officers were elected for the next term. They were the same two officers that have been in office for this term, a woman from Plainville and a man from Simsbury. Those are the only two people that wanted the job. And then there was an open discussion about recent activities in different towns in the region. That's my report.
Thank you. Zoning enforcement.
Zoning enforcement, the spreadsheet was on the table, and I think, Giuseppe, you mentioned something about paving equipment. There is something on 925? Yeah.
I saw that.
Actually, on this, and if it's at a different time of day, if it's a certain time of day, let me know. I live in town, and I do inspections at very odd times.
Yeah, I drive by there every day, so I can let you know.
Because I go at like 5 in the morning or 2 in the morning, or it doesn't matter. I can, if it's
Take a
there.
picture of it, send it to her.
But on this list, you'll notice there's basically 3 items that are zoning, the paving equipment, and 2 on signs. We've getting a lot of complaints on signs lately, but this time of year, it's basically tall grass. And people, as the weather breaks, people are like, oh yeah, my yard's a mess, and it is a mess. And we have a lot of blight complaints and tall grass complaints. But we're seeing more signs now as well. But let me know on that paving
Yeah, not a problem.
thing. I'll go by and at some odd time and see what I can see as well.
So on the previous list that we had, did the stuff all get resolved or just fall off the list?
If it's resolved, it's gone. I mean, I don't know if you want this to, if you
Well, I
want
mean,
this to be.
I think it should just stay, maybe we should just reduce it to zoning enforcement. Not, obviously,
Yeah, because most of,
we don't really need to know about tall grass. But maybe just reduce the list, because there's other stuff that's been complained about, but if it hasn't been resolved, we don't know what the status is
So we'll keep the blight off of it.
from previous lists. Because this starts in May, so what happened from January to May? Like, where's that list?
Oh, well, you've probably gotten that before, so.
Right, but I guess the
Okay.
question is what, instead of complaining, continuously bringing up the same subject, if it's on the list, then we won't have to bring it up.
Okay.
With all the heavy rains that have happened, can we confirm if all the silt fencing is in place at all these, does the building department or whoever go out, or whoever go out? I heard a couple complaints on the development on New Britain Avenue and Kobe Road.
I got
And
that.
then, I can't remember the other one, but we can just make sure that, all the silt fencing and runoff is all contained. That'd be cool. And just out of curiosity, what's going on with that vessel property on Henkel Way?
It's basically a ghost town.
Because
I
they
mean,
said 6 weeks and they'd be done, and
Yeah.
then now
No,
there's
it's
2
a-
buildings there with no
it's a
one
ghost
there.
town. I guess they've had problems elsewhere. So,
Okay,
yeah. So they're working elsewhere, and then they may get back to this, we hope.
okay. They give us a bond, right?
So, we don't, because we're not going to build the project.
Oh,
We don't
Not
build.
infrastructure to
we
the town,
don't-
so we don't care.
We
Okay.
don't build projects. So, yeah.
okay.
You build you build a strip mall, we're not building strip malls. We're not in that business.
You don't want to do that?
No. We'll leave that to you, okay?
Nice. Minor modifications? Any minor modifications?
No.
Affordable Housing Committee.
We had met recently at the beginning of the month, and they were talking about, and Tom Pugliese, I guess, alluded to it, tiny homes. There's an appendix, I believe it's Appendix Q, I think, in the building code that talks about tiny homes. Is it Appendix Q?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you. About tiny homes not exceeding 400 square feet. They must meet all the other building codes, but they're looking at tiny homes and they'll be suggesting a regulation change. I told them to hold off after the POCD when we have to do the regulations. They're also eyeing the property of the former I-291 property to maybe look into that for possible affordable housing development. So they're investigating that property, so.
Any legislation?
Well, Ellen already mentioned House Bill 5002, which has a slew of different regulation changes that are put forth, that is on the governor's desk, and it's my understanding he wants modifications. Some of which are doing away with parking requirements entirely. Affordable housing, a lot of affordable housing regulations, allowing middle housing as of right, no process, just as of right. So I was going to actually review it, but I think we need to wait to see what the governor's going to do, because I know he wants some changes, so.
Before we leave this topic, I want to throw a couple things in sidewalk ordinance and the sidewalk fund, if we can just keep that at the top of mind.
We have, I've gone through the ordinance book, and I think there are probably 30-plus ordinances that I know Steve Soplak and I are looking at modifying somehow, so that's up there.
Okay. What's that procedure to modify an ordinance, so we're all on the same page?
It has to go to the town council. The language has to go to the town council, and they have to have a hearing.
Is your goal to do them as a bulk change,
Probably
or one at a time?
not one at a time.
No.
Probably a few related
Few, okay.
at a time, yeah.
Sidewalk ordinance,
And
throw that in there with the
Yep.
sidewalk fund. Any communications?
Well, the biggie is there is a court case. I won't go into great detail, but there is a court case, AMG PUB 2 LLC. That's 2720, 2736 Main Street versus Planning and Zoning Commission. We received litigation on that, and the record has been prepared, and it was sent over, because of the size of the record, it was sent over by flash drives over to the town attorney's office, so, for a response, so stay tuned for that. Back in April, I had talked to Gabby Armstrong from Kelson Row. There was some question, and I need some updated figures on this, but it was as far as the rental, what's occupied, what's not occupied, over at Kelson Row. Of the entire community, 30.52% was occupied at that time. 58.69% was leased. Workforce housing, or the affordable units, 69.76% are leased, with 23.26 being occupied at that time. So we need to update those figures.
As a follow-up to Kelson Row, can we get an update when Building 1 AC units are going to be fixed on Main Street? Building 2 is done with the screening, and they did a great job with it. Just wondering when Building 1 is going to be done.
I think there was a problem with the, I thought there was a problem with the utilities.
There's always a problem.
But
I don't know,
we'll-
that it's on their plan and they promised to do it. So I was just, if you can just,
Okay.
next time you talk to them, if we can just get an update. I know Commissioner Brescia asked once before, and if we can just keep engaged with them to get that Building 1 done, that'd be cool.
On that same subject, on the communication about the occupied units, can we get the actual numbers in each case instead of percentages so that we have an idea of
Okay?
how many are actually occupied, not what percentage of them are? That's all.
Is there a state application they have to fill out? How does that work? Just wondering how that works on the affordable housing for a facility like that. Do they approach them to apply for, or is it through the state they have to apply for affordable housing? I'm just curious.
There's,
How is it maintained, basically?
yeah, well, there's language that's filed, and they have to review, the income guidelines
So
and the qualifications.
their
of the-
management office does that? Okay.
We don't have staff people to do that.
I just wasn't sure if it was run by the state, and then they get statused, or, you know, like pre-approved, or, and then they approach a rental place and say.
I
that
think
they're-
they report to the state what percentage they have and what's, you know,
Right, but if
it's
you're
run by the
applying-
state, not by the town.
It's run by the state.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So if you're applying there for rent, and
Go to the state.
you have, so the state, I guess the question is the state,
I think it's because of the CHFA financing.
Yeah.
I was just curious to see if it was through their management office, or if it was a state program that you had to apply for and then present it when you apply for a unit and say.
I'd have to
fall
look at
under
their,
that.
I'd have to look at their affordable housing
I
plan.
mean, it's their application that you're filling
Because they
out.
have their own plan.
Right, you're
As
applying
does
there,
Stepney
but-
Place, as does,
Tell them that you're,
There's a process that is
right, so the process goes through the rental
way beyond,
facility.
as they say,
Yes.
not in our lane.
Because I know that, like, we're supposed to have somebody who keeps track of it for the town, but we
They
don't
have to
have.
provide,
right.
they just have to provide the data to the town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We
So we
don't.
can, maintain our numbers.
yep.
Any bills? Oh, I'm sorry, Kim, are you done with communications?
yeah, I mean, we also have a resolution, I just put a copy in here, the resolution of the town joining the Municipal Redevelopment Authority. It's now called Municipal Development Authority. It's fairly new, it's at the state level. It helps with creating downtown areas, transit-oriented development, providing technical assistance, possibly financial assistance in downtown areas, and we're looking to expand our downtown area along Sollerstein, so
Love it.
the council did sign on to that. So, I would say no. I think we're done.
Do you have any bills?
No, because we didn't have any consultants, so you tell me.
Nice.
You tell me. You tell me, Victor.
You don't want to get my bill.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.